Test, test. Oh, I think we're good. Okay, we're gonna wait for everyone to jump on. We'll get this party started.
Brett, did you go over the specific topics we wanted Sherry to discuss?
Oh, sorry. There we go. Yes, I basically told her we wanted to just do like another overview of the same information that she gave last time. And yeah, I told her that David would introduce her and that we'd give her time at the beginning and he would invite her to speak. So.
Okay. Are you gonna keep your clothes on at this time, Britt?
I'm sanding. I will do my
Sanding?
best. I am
Okay.
sanding. Yeah, I will do my best, Dave. I'll keep
Okay.
it PG.
So you're sanding?
I am, yes. I'm
Like
sanding cabinets. Uh-huh.
Oh, fun.
Yes.
I felt like we painted our master and it was terrible. I never want to paint another room in our house. We're gonna look up how much it costs to pay someone to do this next time because it was terrible.
It's a tough
It's
job.
a big
the
big
amount
job.
of work, we had no clue, and it was just putting white over tan walls and like the ceiling, the couple layers on the walls, every door frame. The bathrooms were a nightmare around like fixtures and
it's the prep and the finishing touches, the edges.
Oh, the taping everything took like 4 hours.
I have like no toilet in my bathroom. We're redoing the floors, we're redoing the painting, we're retiling our shower, we're doing everything. Everything.
Oh, now I can see.
Yeah, we'll give it a couple more minutes to let people jump on.
Did you were you able to get that post up yet, David?
We're gonna put it up after this.
We didn't want to discourage people from getting on the call. So.
Yeah, they'll be like, okay, my question's answered, so.
They're like, I'm good.
And for all of you guys that are kind of jumping on, I'll say this again in just a little bit, but the chat box at the bottom of your screen, like if you move your cursor, if you're on your phone and you tap your screen, that's where we'll have you guys just type in if you have questions. And I'll be fielding the questions to Dave to let him know. And yeah, but that's where they'll be, is in the group chat box down at the bottom. And if you don't feel comfortable, say, I don't know, voicing a question, we can leave it anonymous. If you just send the question just to me, and you can do that. There's an option under there where it send it to everybody, or you can scroll down and just send it to David. And so feel free if you just want to send it to me if it's something you don't really want a name attached to, or you don't feel comfortable in that way having the group see it in the chat box. That's totally fine.
I don't know if I'm just not technically savvy, but I find when I go to that website, I think one thing to keep in mind in the future is like you got to scroll down a little bit, and it's kind of not clear that you click on a link, right, to get to this call, at least in my mind. But I'm maybe not the best to figure out whether it was intuitive or not.
I know Tennille needs to up her website designing skills.
I feel like Tennille's our big hope.
Oh, yeah.
Dave, how hot is it in Arizona right now?
Not too bad. It's like in the 90s.
Okay, still comfortable.
And, you know, for Arizona, 90s is, because it's so dry, it's not bad at all. So. Hey there.
Tiffany, you just saw my wife a second ago. I don't know if she can hear me.
They might just maybe muted.
Hey, Tiffany. Oh, maybe not. My wife borrowed a book from her.
So what were those books you got, David? Are they anything interesting?
It's
seem pretty
extremely random. Let me see. It was just like, when I was looking through it, at first I thought maybe you were having us do like a book club. It was one called Refugee, one called White Bird, and the other one's titled Bob.
How that gets mixed up with safety cones,
No clue. There were 16 copies of Bob, like 20 copies of Refugee, and 7 copies of White Bird.
so nothing.
And they were like hardback too.
Wow. We can see if there's some early questions because we're waiting on.
So guys, if you want to go ahead and if you have anything you want to put in the chat box, or if you can't figure that out and you just want to unmute yourself and kind of voice a question out, that works. And if not, we can kind of maybe tee up a couple common questions we had on the last call. But feel free and just kind of, we'll give you a minute or two if you want to type in just in the chat box a question that you have. And it can be any question. Don't feel like if you have something that's kind of weighing on your mind with it, feel free and ask.
Maybe address the booking question, even though you might have to repeat that, David.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So guys, we get the question a lot, and we're going to put up a post after this as far as booking your classes go. That's the most common question that we've been getting over the last week or so. We're going to be opening up booking. Most likely it'll be on the 18th of May, which is a Monday. It's that Monday right before the projected time, or before our opening date on the 23rd. And we don't yet have the exact time that we're going to release the schedule. We'll let you guys know with plenty of time in advance. You can plan the exact time during the day that the schedule will be open to do, but it will be, oh, Sherry said she'll be on in just 1 minute. But the booking will open on that day, and you can probably plan a few days before. We'll do a big social media post, let you guys know, like, hey, it's going to be at such and such a time. We'll release the schedule, and you'll be good to start booking classes on that day. So that's coming up like a week from today.
Mm.
Yeah, Sherry just said she's hopping on in just a sec.
So, Devin, just a question.
Oh, yeah, do you see that?
Do you want to answer that, David?
Remind me again, I believe it was, did they have the limit on it?
So when we first open, you can book as many classes as you like. What they're going to do on your next billing cycle is people are going to be restricted to being able to book 1 class per day, just to give other people an opportunity to get into some of the classes, because we are going to be operating with certain capacity restrictions. And so there really are no limitations for now, but there will be once your next billing cycle hits. And I don't know if that question was related to how far out can you book, but there is going to be a national change where basically there's going to be a 14-day schedule posted. And so I think we've been operating with a 30-day schedule, and it's going to be reduced down to 2 weeks. So I see your question, Andrea, about freezing accounts. And so, yeah, sorry that you've got some family members that, and sorry that I'm acting like everybody knows what your question is. So you asked, will freezing accounts be extended? I love OTF, but I live with immune compromised family members and still very worried about returning to classes. And so there's an email that's going to go out on Saturday. And basically it's an announcement that, we're reopening on the 23rd, and accounts would be unfrozen as of that date, unless you click on, there's going to be an option to click on that you're not ready to return. And that's going to take you to a different screen where you basically identify that you would like to extend your freeze or make some other adjustment to your account. And so that's going to alert our staff, and then our staff's going to reach out to those folks and kind of talk through the different options that you guys have available to you. Yeah, and as much as we, if you haven't seen Andrea the little unprofessional safety video I did, it'll give you a sense of all the different precautions that we're taking and the cleanliness standards that we have, and different things that we think is really going to bring the risk down to a very, very low level. But we obviously can't guarantee that there's going to be absolutely no possibility of getting COVID-19 in our studio like any other facility. And so if you do feel like you just don't want to take any risk whatsoever, we completely understand that.
Hey, Dave, we got Sherry on. Do we want to turn the time over to her for a second, then we'll get to the rest of the questions?
Yeah, so let me introduce her too. So we have a member of ours that also, I don't know if Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is you work in the health department at the University of Utah. And so everything there is to know about this pandemic firsthand, and a lot more than we know, as much as I've been trying to read up as much as I can about everything that's going on and what safety precautions we have to put in place. And just so you guys know, we have a medical advisory board at Orange Theory that we've had for years, and they've never come in more handy than now during this time to help us understand what safety precautions we should be putting in place, what equipment should we be using, what cleaning supplies, what EPA rating we should be looking for different materials. And so they've helped us on a whole host of different things that helped us establish what our protocol should be. And so anyway, but Sherry also was able to address some questions on our last call. And so we asked if she could come back on this call because it was just so incredibly helpful. So thank you again, Sherry, for joining us. I don't see you listed in any of the. Oh, there you are, Sherry. Yeah. You're in the upper right-hand corner here of my screen. So.
No, I was actually finishing up a case, so that's why I'm a little bit late.
Oh yeah, no problem.
So I work for the Utah Department of Health. So there's kind of if you're talking about, I don't know. So the state health department is for the whole state, right? But because most of the studios that you have, I think, all reside in Utah or Salt Lake County. Is that correct? I think all the Miracle studios are in Salt Lake.
Yes, they are.
So, Salt Lake County may have different regulations, but for the most part, they all are about the same, if that even makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure. I know people had really good questions last time, and so I just answered them. But I just let people know, if you've had an opportunity to watch the video that Dave did, explaining everything that they're doing for the studios, for us as members, to negate any risk, if you will, of getting COVID. I personally don't have any reservations going. I know that we're going to be wearing masks. You can decide if that's going to be for you or not. The social distancing is going to be there. And as far as everything that's going on in the studio during class, I think we'll be fine. I said the biggest risk is going to be for those of us, myself included, that like to chit chat after class. Any of that's going to have to just take place outside, and you're basically chatting in your own risk, right? So, but wearing the mask and being 6 to 10 feet away from everyone while we're exercising and having all the equipment cleaned, I think everything should be fine. So I don't know. I don't know what I said last time.
Yeah, sure. Can you
questions?
So yeah, let me actually, I would love to get your opinion on this, Sherry, because the mask topic is a controversial one from the standpoint of people just don't have a preference for wearing one. And what we wanted to let folks know is that we are actually sourcing 2 types of masks that are much better material. They're kind of like stretchable, breathable fabrics. that one type of mask that we're sourcing is actually from the largest U.S. swimwear company in the U.S. And so they're really designed more for comfort and for more breathability associated with the mask. And we're trying to encourage everybody to, they're pretty inexpensive, and we'd love for everybody just to try it out and kind of see if it works for them. But Sherry, what's your feeling about the lowered risk factor associated with wearing masks? Because it's
Well, I mean, I think especially in an exercise situation, I mean, if you're going to be concerned about it, I mean, there's a lot of heavy breathing that's going on, right? You know, and all of that whirling around as people are, you know, breathing heavily and exercising, if you will, right? And it is airborne. And I know it's harder to not touch your face. We're going to be touching all of those things. So I think it just provides that extra risk. And the thing with COVID is that you are more likely to spread it 1 to 3 days before you show symptoms. That's when you're the most contagious. So you may be in class thinking, I'm fine. Why do I have to wear this stupid mask? And then 3 days later, you're sick, right? So then everyone that you were around, you've exposed. So if you're wearing a mask and you happen to be positive for COVID and you don't know, then you're not going to pass it because you're wearing a mask. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the Salt Lake County Health Department, a little bit surprising to me that they basically said, if you maintain 10-foot distancing, you don't have to wear a mask in a fitness facility and while you're working out. And so I know Devin, you've asked the question, and this question's come up a lot, that if we were to pursue that option, and we are actually considering having a couple of classes on the schedule that would have that type of spacing, which then would not require a mask, but the capacity gets to be so low that we're just worried about people's access to get into classes. And so, for example, in Holiday, we would be limited to 12 people per class for that studio. If we require a mask and have 6-foot spacing, we can get 18. In South Jordan, for example, it's 14 people if we do the 10-foot spacing, 21 if we do the 6-foot spacing. And so, you know, it's really, you know, we get about a third more capacity by having masks required as part of the class. And we just think it's important, you know, A, to give people access, B, to have that additional form of protection, and number 3, we think that we'll have a couple of options available where I think people will find it's not bad. I personally have used one of the masks that is being sourced from a company out of Orem. And initially I was kind of like, this feels a little bit weird. You know, it's like, because you're kind of like the material, every time you take a breath in, you're kind of feeling it almost like enter your mouth a little bit, just, you know, very slightly, but still feels different than what you're used to. And then after about 5 minutes, I kind of got used to it, and I actually got to the point where I was like, felt just fine, kind of running, and I ran up a hill and was okay with it. And I think so. One of the things we're going to have the coaches try to suggest everybody is, don't worry about trying to max out your pace too much from what you were used to, because the whole idea with Orange Theory is to get into a certain intensity level, get your heart rate up for a certain amount of time within the workout, and you'll be able to achieve that at a lower pace. And so if people can suspend their interest in trying to hit personal bests on everything as far as their pace goes, just for this time period, you'll basically get the same results while not running as fast or walking as fast. And so we are going to make these masks available for, if we get them in time, we're going to try to set up some tables outside before we open. Have people, you know, we'll have at least a sample that people can touch and feel. Of course, if they buy it, you know, we can't return it. But they'll be $5 or less, these masks, and maybe it gives, you know, some people an opportunity just to kind of, you know, try it out and kind of see what their experience is like.
And then question about family members.
Yeah, Carrie, we got this question before too, and And the question was, if you have a family member, can you work out, will be fine with them working out side by side? And for now, we can't allow that. It's still, we have to maintain that 6-foot spacing. And it's a little bit because we want other members to feel like, not to question things, right? To say, well, why are those two people working out next to each other, and then yet other people have the spacing? So we want to be very consistent about the structure of how we create the workout. Secondly, we could have the health department stopping in, at any point and inspecting us. And I don't know if they would buy off on, well, they're family members, so we just decided we were going to bypass the rule that they have. And so we want to be pretty consistent about really respecting the guidelines that have been put out. And they haven't said you can make exceptions for family members. So. One of the questions that Sherry, that you were very helpful with is, will there be any restrictions on members that may be traveling and then come back, and they may have gone somewhere that has more cases, or maybe is even considered a hotspot for COVID? Are we going to place any restrictions on their ability to come back to the studio? And Sherry, can you address that?
So the thing with that is, I mean, obviously it will change on a daily basis. So the thing that we're telling people is, CDC has a website for international travel and stateside travel, if you're traveling from state to state. And so there are certain restrictions internationally. So if someone's traveling internationally, then there may be some restrictions. And I don't know if the OTF member would just say, hey, I went to China, can I come to class? You could go to the CDC website and see what are the guidelines on that. And so something like that, they would be, you would have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks, and then you could come back into class. Statewide right now, there are no specific restrictions, but we do ask people, say you went to California and you went for a family reunion and you hung out with people and you didn't wear a mask and you were in this high, infectious area, there's not really any, mandated quarantine. It's just that we ask, if these were, risky behaviors, if you will, hanging out with family at a family reunion in a highly infected area, that you limit your activity, or you limit where you're going. I don't know that they can put you on quarantine, but that may change. So if that area becomes very highly infected and then our rates go up, then they may put a quarantine back in. So that would just be a matter of, either checking the Utah Department of Health website, the Salt Lake County website, or the CDC website.
Mm-hmm.
Because those have to be updated daily based on the numbers.
Okay. Sherry, what's the opinion about the experience in Utah relative to the rest of the country? And can you give any can you speculate, even though I know it's very hard to get a sense of when you think we're going to drop down to a lower risk category?
I mean, we just really don't have any idea. I mean, we've tracked the numbers. So when we had conference weekend, I had a lot of people messaging, because I also work so the two things that I'm doing for COVID right now is I work on the web chat. So if you go to coronavirus.utah.gov and a little bubble comes up and says, hey, do you have a question? That's going to be one of us, one of the health educators. And then the other thing is doing contact tracing. And so I'm just doing contact tracing for businesses. Yeah, so I don't really deal with like the like individual per se, but I contact the businesses. And so what we have seen is, during that conference weekend, a lot of people went with their traditions and went and hung out with family. And so, kind of 10 to 14 days after that, we saw a little bit of an uptick. Same thing for Easter. I imagine it will be very similar for Mother's Day. I imagine another 10 to 14 days, we're going to have more cases because people went and hung out with family. you know, and we get stuff like that all the time, you know, like, oh, I went and had my hair done, and, you know, and now today I'm sick, and yesterday I felt fine. So, I mean, that, we're just going to see that. So you just have to decide what kind of risk you want to have.
Sherry, have you seen any stats? I know we've had about 66 people die of COVID-19 in Utah. And I've seen stats from other states like New York City. They show that I think it was 94% of the people that were hospitalized had some other underlying condition, whether it be high blood pressure, you know, diabetes, you know, some of they were going through cancer treatment. So there was always some other condition that the person had as well that prompted them to have a condition that required them to be hospitalized. And I think the average age was 64. Have you seen any stats out of Utah that seem to suggest it's pretty similar in terms of the kind of circumstances that lead to more serious issues?
Yeah, and so if you go to that website, that coronavirus.utah.gov, and you click on case counts, of course, it'll give you the case counts that have, you know, the number of cases, the number of deaths, the number of hospitalizations. That's kind of big, bold. But then on the top in blue, there's about 5 other tabs that have rates for hospitalizations, demographics, you know, statistics, you know, who's dying, what ages. And then it also gives like all of the health districts or by county, how many in each area. So if you go there, it has all of the different stats. I mean, people are always wanting data. I mean, most of the questions that I get, there's at least 1 or 2 per shift of, can we have this kind of data? Can we have that kind of data? So I know the epidemiologists are working hard, but a lot of that data is, you know, coded with personal information, right? So it's a matter of how do we pull all the data, get, you know, all of the identifying factors out so that we can put it in a graph for the public. So they just started that. Do you remember when they started that, honey? I know it was last week sometime. So I know for sure it was there Friday, but maybe like last Wednesday or Thursday, they changed up the website so you can view all the different data.
What's the name of the website again?
Coronavirus.utah.gov.
Okay. Does anybody else have any, Eric, I saw your question. I want to be respectful of Sherry's time, and I wanted to see if there are any other more health-related questions that people might have.
I mean, really the biggest thing is if you're sick, stay home, right? I mean, I know that sounds stupid, but I mean, people just think like, oh, you know, I have a little cough or I feel fine. But I mean, they're just finding that it can be any of those symptoms. That's why Dr. Dunn, who's been doing the daily press conferences, she's asked, if you have any symptom, just please go get tested. You know, because those that have a more robust immune system may only have a little bit of a cough and feel fine and not think anything about it.
Yeah.
And then they're infected, they're passing it around to everyone that they are around and think that they're fine. So yeah, so I mean, if you're just sick at all, just stay home.
Yeah.
Go get tested.
Yeah, so for the folks that may not have seen the video, so our plan is that everybody who enters the facility would get a temperature scan. So we have these non-contact digital thermometers that register what your temperature is, and anything 100.4 or above, people would be denied entry, and that includes employees as well. So that's a CDC standard for someone who has a fever. We also ask people to do a verbal confirmation that they don't have any of the COVID-19 symptoms, and we'll have a poster or sign that kind of lists out what those symptoms are, so people can, you know, start to get familiar with that, and they have to give us a verbal confirmation that they're not experiencing any of those symptoms currently. Now, people can be asymptomatic, and we appreciate that, and that's why we've got all these other types of precautions. So we're asking everybody has to sanitize their hands as they come in. We're going to ask everybody to basically wipe down their equipment before and after use, even though it's already been cleaned. We are going to go through a cleaning protocol after every class that cleans off all the high touch points in the studio. We're doing electrostatic spraying twice a month, which creates a barrier that viruses can't live on for an extended period of time. We are putting in air purifiers in the studio that eliminates pollens, molds, viruses, bacteria that are circulating in the air. And so, so what we're trying to do is just kind of, take on a series of measures that collectively we think minimizes the risk, even though you can't take it down to zero. And so, so we're hoping that it's about as safe a place you can go relative to any other place you might visit. So I always talk in terms of, if you go to the grocery store, you go to the pharmacy, we probably have more precautions that we're taking in our studio as far as who can come in and out of the facility. The type of cleaning regimen that we maintain is probably easier for us to accomplish than for example, a grocery store. And so people should feel this sense of, very high degree of safety associated with, being in our facility.
Hey, Dave, I had someone message a question in for you. Would it be possible for someone to pre-order the mask to eliminate the possibility of having to stand in the line at a table if they're not feeling comfortable with that? If they could like call in or do something to order one and then pick it up at a different time or something?
We could. I would love for people to kind of check out a couple of the options. If they just feel comfortable, doesn't matter. It's like they would pick either one, then certainly we can do that. We're going to try to set up like a little Venmo type deal where people can just purchase it through a Venmo account, and I think that's a great idea. I assume people would kind of like want to look at it and maybe touch and feel it, but if they're comfortable just kind of going with whatever we have and just trusting that it's going to be decent, then we can do that as well. So Carrie, when you were asking about, can we see the masks online? I can send you pictures. I've got 2 samples with me, and other than that, they're in transit. And then the staff is going to have theirs in a couple of days, and so there probably will be the opportunity. I guess when you get them, David, maybe you can take some pictures of them as well, just to show what they're going to look like. Otherwise,
yeah, Carrie, I can do that once we have like an idea of what's actually like on the tag for material. We can make a post about it to show you guys.
Yeah. So again, I want to be respectful of Sherry's time here, so she doesn't have to spend the evening with us, much as we love to have you, Sherry. So I don't see anything at the moment for more health and safety related questions, Sherry. So it's up to you if you want to hang out or.
Well, does anyone else have any other questions or concerns?
Maybe give it about a minute in case anyone's typing anything in.
Yeah, maybe I'll answer another question and we'll see if anything else pops up. Another question got raised about, will the live workouts continue? And basically, the live workouts will be part of the membership. The at-home workouts that you guys have had access to, my understanding is those will just continue at no charge, whether you're a member or not. I think they're going to be available through YouTube. The ones that are more live sessions, they're going to have some additional features associated with them. And I think that is going to be tied in with the membership itself. I don't think those are going to be available for free for anybody, is my understanding. They're also, by the way, they're putting together some equipment kits. And when I say equipment, I mean like one kit will have like the select weight style dumbbells. So there's just one stand and you kind of dial in what weight you want. And there may be like a resistance band, a mini band, that might be one package. I think there are going to be 3 different types of kits. One's going to be more like a travel kit. So everything's very lightweight, probably more resistance band and a mini band that, people can then potentially do a workout in their hotel room, and they'll have different class options available that you can view that will be specific to knowing what kind of equipment you have. And so they're going to look at different circumstances of equipment that people might have and then design workouts around that. And if people don't have any equipment, they're going to make these little equipment packages available to folks. So Andrea was asking, are other OTF locations doing the same thing as us? There are specific national standards that have been established for Orange Theory. So it's part of the reason for our delay is that you have to meet national guidelines for Orange Theory in order to open, and that means having all the proper materials in place, having training established for your staff. And so a lot of the materials that that we have now secured or in transit are very, very difficult to get. Just believe it or not, like things like disposable gloves are very hard to get right now, and for good reason. You know, hospitals and other medical institutions need them right now. But EPA rated, you know, disinfectants are hard to get. The specific gym wipes that we use are antiviral. The ones that are easier to get are just antibacterial, but they're not effective against viruses. And so every Orange Theory studio has to have antiviral wipes. So you have to have EPA rated disinfectants and cleaning solutions, EPA rated antiviral wipes in place, certain training protocols. The safety protocols are going to be the same. Where we're going a little bit beyond what the national standard is would include electrostatic spraying is optional, but we're doing that at our studios. And the air purifiers are optional, but we're doing that at our studios. So you may not necessarily see that at other Orange Theory locations. Yeah, so Carrie, I see that you say you do Carrie mentioned that they do electrostatic spraying at her schools and consider it to be effective. Yeah, and we're sourcing from a company that actually sells to the U.S. Navy, so they apply that to their ships, and they've been using it in their studios. There's a company that supplies the chemicals. It also happens to be an Orange Theory owner in Jacksonville, and they've been doing electrostatic spraying for the last 2 years, and have found it to be, you know, quite effective. And an important element for all Orange Theory owners is they don't want it like degrading the equipment, where usually it just kind of discolors, and some chemicals will discolor equipment over time, and they have not seen any discoloration in their equipment. So they're feeling very comfortable that this is a very good product for us to use inside a fitness center. And the rated period of time where it provides the coating against viruses is 28 days. But we're going to spray twice a month because with constant cleaning, we think that that coating eventually will wear down. It's a very strong coating. It bonds very strongly to any surface. But, you know, we're just thinking that with enough scrubbing of stuff, you know, you probably are going to strip away some of that coating eventually. And that's what we're thinking. Doing it twice a month is a safer way for us to go. So I don't happen to see any other questions.
I was just going to add really quick, because I know David mentioned at the beginning, you were talking about masks and how the majority of the classes we are going to be having masks on. Just rest assured that all of the coaches are going to be undergoing training on how to better coach you, given that restriction that you'll have in breathing. And so know that we're not just going to have you like go into class and be like, he already kind of mentioned it, like do your same efforts, do your same things. We're going to be specifically coaching you differently based on how the mask affects your breathing. And so know that the coaching experience is going to be really good. We're going to make sure everybody is trained and ready for it so that you guys are still going to get the best experience and the safest experience that you can have when you come in.
Keep in mind too, if you do any traveling out of state, there's some states it's absolutely mandatory. Doesn't matter what the social distancing is, you have to have a mask. And so if you go to California, people have to expect you're going to have to wear a mask. And even within Utah, certain establishments are requiring masks, like Costco. And so that's what we're thinking. To the extent people are a little hesitant about acquiring a mask, you probably will be able to use it for other purposes as well, even outside of Orange Theory, and it's probably a more comfortable mask than other options out there. So probably not a bad investment, you know, to make regardless.
Hey Dave, did you see that question that just popped up on there?
Yeah, so the question is, how can everyone get workouts in with smaller class sizes? So we are, one, we're adding classes to the schedule. So we'll have at least as many classes as we had before. Plus, we're adding, I think, 5 to 7 generally per studio. We're going to have classes in the morning. They'll generally be on the hour, and they'll be 45-minute classes. We have to allow at least a 15-minute break between classes for cleaning. And so there'll be, for example, in South Jordan, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 as well, David?
11:15.
11:15, yeah, I one who said, let's go 11:15 instead of 11. So there will be additional class options available, but we totally appreciate the fact that, there still would be reduced availability because of the restrictions we have in place. We are anticipating a certain percentage of members will extend their freeze. I can tell you, for example, St. George just opened on Friday, and about 30% of their members opted to extend their freeze. So we understand sorry, I forgot who asked the question, but we understand, people have different circumstances, whether they've got a family member that they think is at risk, and they just don't want to take any risk at all of potentially bringing back something into their household. We know people have faced a lot of financial hardship. I think we're up to 30 million people unemployed right now. So it's like, obviously the economy is in pretty tough shape right now. So we totally appreciate the fact that people are faced with all kinds of different circumstances, and we won't get the same number of members being able to return immediately. We hope that over time, people that get back into a very comfortable situation, both financially and health-wise, that they do have an opportunity to return. And we are going to have an extra high degree of sensitivity to being accommodating to folks that are not ready to return yet. So there won't be fees associated with extending freezes. There won't be, for those folks that have to cancel, there will not be another billing cycle like there normally is. When you go to cancel, there usually is one more billing cycle that is going to get waived. And that's going to be a national standard. And so people don't have to fear the sense of that they're going to be faced with other financial obligations if now is not the right time for them to return.
Hey, Dave, could you just mention real quick the email that they're going to receive over the weekend before booking opens?
Just say it again. Just repeat it.
Yeah, just to like, I don't know if they haven't heard about the email that'll go out on the 16th.
Okay, so yeah, so on Saturday, everybody will get an email that basically announces that we're going to be reopening on the 23rd. There's going to be a whole set of bullets about giving you guys some preparation for what to expect when you come back to the studio. But there also will be a very clear option to say, I'm not ready to come back and I'd like to extend my freeze. But if people click on that, the staff would get notified. They're going to reach out to that individual and go through the different options that are available to them and see what's best for them. If for some reason people don't open that email on Saturday, there's another email that'll go out 48 hours later to those folks that did not open the first email. We'll also continue to do a lot of social media posts. We'll try to give people advance notice. Hey, make sure you check your email, for messages. And if for some reason people still didn't see any kind of email, always an opportunity to reach out to us and just talk through the situation one-on-one. We will have, so we have a bunch of members of our team that have been rehired as of this week. A lot of our head coaches remained on our staff, but now we're bringing back the studio managers as well, and the entire head coaching team is now back. And then starting next week, we have most of our team coming back. Good news is, by the way, that 95% of our team has decided to return, and so we're thrilled about that. And so my point is that there will be an opportunity to call the studio as of next week and actually be able to talk to a live human being. Less than 3, David, or is that a code for something? Is that a smiley face or?
That's a heart. I know. Thank you, Carrie. Dave, did you see the question from Holly just a little bit above that? about the non-mask classes?
Yeah, so I guess the challenge for us, Holly, is the question is, will more non-mask classes be added if you find the non-mask classes are filling up? I guess it depends a little bit though if the mask classes are full too. So if we find that the classes with masks are less attended, then that's a good reason to then convert them over to a non-mask class, because that may be one of the barriers that people are thinking about. So we definitely want to be really analyze the situation over the first couple of weeks and kind of see what's working best for people. Because the other thing we just don't know is we know, well, we do know a lot of people are working from home now, and where maybe 2 months ago, a 1 o'clock in the afternoon class would have been very poorly attended. Maybe now a 1 o'clock class works for a lot of people. And so we want to try to get a sense of that, and whether there might be some other class times that we can add to the schedule. That's Moochie. That's our big dog that goes invisible. For some reason, he's not showing up, Jeanette. I don't know. He's coming in and out of your screen, your green screen. Thank you, Michelle. It only took me 18 takes to do that video, Michelle, because I kept like stuttering or forgetting what I was supposed to say. And I'm like, oh, and I don't have an ability to edit. So I had to, I know how many times I had to start over on that silly video. And the other thing, I was consciously trying to keep it down to 3 minutes, and that's what I thought I achieved. And then until I saw it on YouTube and it said 7 minutes, and I was like, oh, I just can't. I can't keep my comments condensed. Yeah, I think we've covered most of the questions, but we're gonna we'll try to continue to sprinkle in some things over the course of the next 2 weeks on social media, so that we're not overwhelming people with too much information to think about, and just kind of layer in some of the little changes that they should be prepared for. I don't think it's going to be, once you kind of go through 1 or 2 classes, I think it's going to be no issue whatsoever, but it will be a little bit different to start with. And we hate, by the way, that we're all about community, and we're going to be telling you separate all the time. And so it's kind of something that's going to be hard to get used to. Okay, well, thank you for taking some time on a Monday evening with us. We really appreciate that. And like David said in the beginning, if you guys have any other questions that come to mind, feel free to reach out to any of us. I love talking to members, by the way. So we always tell the staff, feel free to give out our cell phone numbers, and it keeps us very abreast of what's working, what's not working, in the studios when we talk directly to members. And so, and I'm always happy to talk, as my staff knows. So.
Sherry, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you again, Sherry.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Just send me a message if anyone has questions. They can send me a message on Facebook, find me there, or on the OTF Sandy page, or whatever, if they don't know my cell phone.
Well, we appreciate you so much, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and Sherry, if there's ever a chance we find out how we might be part of any task force, I'm sure they've already got the team together and stuff, but we'd love to, because the gym area is they're not good lobbyists, the gym industry in general. And so they were finding that there were a lot of misconceptions about gyms, and people thinking that they were scary places to go in this environment. And we're trying to get out more education about how important exercise is for building up your respiratory system. A, and then B, that there certainly are establishments more in the boutique area, the small, you know, profile type establishments like ours that we feel like are better suited for, you know, what's going on right now, and that we shouldn't necessarily be lumped in with, you know, the large format gyms, open gyms. And so I know it's hard for the health department to kind of do all these segregations of people in different categories, but to the extent there's a chance to get more education out there, you know, we'd love to be part of it.
Yeah. I'm not sure who all the different groups that are on the task force. I mean, I know they have business owners along with all the medical staff, you know, just trying to get everything open up again. And, you know, Angela's trying to provide the data, right, as the epidemiologist, like, okay, here's the data. I'm going to take that to the team, and then they get to decide what they're going to do with that information. But I mean, really, the biggest thing you can do is contact your state legislator. You know, whoever is in your specific area, because they really do listen to those. You know, you send them an email or handwrite them a letter and mail it. You know, and just be like, hey, I'm one of your constituents. You know, they want to know that the people that are going to be voting for them, they want to take care of you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
and
that's
sometimes if there are specific, like I know there's specific legislators who, you know, my normal job, my normal part-time job at the health department is with breast cancer, with women's breast cancer issues. And so, you know, we have certain legislators that we work with, knowing that that's their, you know, pet project, if you will. But I'm sure there's other legislators who exercise is important to them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can find out who those people are, write them a letter.
Yeah, great idea.
So.
Okay. Okay, well, thanks everyone, and have a great night.
Thank
See you
you.
soon, I hope.